Hey, I get it. It would be fun to have a fully automated vehicle. I'd like one too. But I'm here to tell you that the probability of any vehicle maker out there or technology company out there achieving full automation at safe levels and at scale is very, very low. Don't hold your breath. My name is Dennis. I've been a chief data scientist for more than 20 years. And in my series of de-influencing data science, I'm here to bust myths that are out there with all the bad information, the idiot influencers, and all those other things that are not giving you real world, realistic advice. In this series, I keep things casual. You'll see me referring to my notes over here. I shoot these all in one take so that I can give you my honest perspective after being in the field, leading lots of projects, lots of teams, lots of people, and I give you the real world view on data science. I have been writing about automated vehicles and the technology in general since about 2017 or so. I was very pessimistic then, and I'm very pessimistic now. I just don't see us heading in a positive direction when it comes to automated vehicles. I'm going to give you two main reasons why. One of the main reasons, and I want to get to kind of the root causes of this, is that there is a fundamental assumption that all of these companies are making. The fundamental assumption is that machine learning can solve anything. There is no problem that machine learning can't solve. I don't happen to agree with that assumption, so I think that the premise that these companies are working under is fundamentally flawed. I say that because are just way too many edge cases when it comes to driving. In fact, I would go as far to say that with cars and the algorithms needed to automate driving is perhaps the algorithm with the most edge cases that has ever been developed in our time. Now, what do I mean by edge cases? Well, you have to realize that a lot of the algorithms around you are basically bound by a range. It's a fairly defined range. There's only so many movies that Netflix can recommend to you. There's only so many songs that somebody like Apple Music can send to you. Or maybe you're in an organization that already uses algorithms. Maybe you use it for some sort of sales process. Well, there's only so many transactions that happen and kind of create these natural boundaries for your algorithm. But driving isn't like that. All kinds of things go into the human mind when it comes to operating a car. So when an algorithm is not aware of those things, it creates these edge cases that can also result in dangerous situations. There could be detours, construction cones, changes in traffic patterns, changes in lighting and signage, in the number of people on the street, the density of traffic, density of pedestrians. So many types of edge cases can happen that an algorithm simply can't account for all of those items. And when an algorithm doesn't account for them, well, that's when problems happen. That's when the errors can happen. So even if you were to have some sort of mechanism or some sort of process for addressing these edge cases, then it still becomes a question of, well, how do you correctly identify the edge case, fix the algorithm to account for that edge case while not breaking other parts of the algorithm? And then how do you successfully deploy that to all of the cars? You're talking about a deployment of a very large scale that's only going to grow larger. How do you do all of those steps successfully and do it at scale? Because the edge cases are quite broad. It'll be a never-ending process, and it's only going to grow as the adoption of the AV vehicles increase if they increase according to some of the projections from these companies. That's a very difficult problem to solve, and that's assuming we're willing to accept, we as a society are willing to accept that some of those edge cases are going to result in very serious injuries or even fatalities. Now, speaking of which, when it comes to those errors, when it comes to those injuries and fatalities, I have recently seen a shift in the dialogue where the AV companies themselves are shifting away from a message of no accidents to fewer accidents than humans. Now, some people seem to find satisfaction in that, but I do not share that view. It's not satisfactory because it still leaves us in a position where errors from algorithms are going to cause some serious harm. Let's think about that. The reality is that algorithms make mistakes all the time. You still get spam in your inbox, don't you? Maybe Amazon makes a funny recommendation to you on a product you should buy. Or maybe that last Netflix recommendation was really rated as a high recommendation for you and you really didn't like the show. Those are algorithmic errors. But the difference is that those algorithmic errors are minor annoyances. No one's going to die because Amazon recommended a bad book to you. But in this case, those same algorithmic errors, those same machine learning functions, those same math formulas are going to reach out and touch you, and they're going to have a very physical effect on you. And some of those physical effects could be very serious injuries and maybe even death. We've never really had that happen before. That's a very unique thing that's happening that's going to be happening, in our society, in our lifetimes. We're going to shift from mistakes being a minor annoyance to a potentially life-changing event. I'm not sure that I'm satisfied that that's something that's going to benefit us all. Maybe that's something that we should just accept as saying, well, hey, maybe machine learning can't solve driving, so we should leave that alone. I think there's a lot of value in being able to evaluate the entire approach on that level. Going from an algorithm being a minor annoyance to some sort of physical result that may even result in death is a complete night and day difference. Now, even if there are fewer accidents than human, even if we were to accept that that's an acceptable outcome, which I don't agree with, but let's accept that, there is still the question of liability. What happens when your grandmother dies in an accident where 2 automated vehicles are involved? Who's going to take responsibility for that? I think that we as humans take a lot of solace in being able to find a culpable party, a reason, a liability. But how are we going to do that when it comes to automated vehicles? Now, I see a lot of people online making the assumption that companies like Tesla and Waymo have agreed to take responsibility. Now, that doesn't sound very practical. Even if they reduced accidents when compared to humans, even if they reduced them by, let's say, 30%, and I don't necessarily agree with that number, I don't believe that, but I'm going to concede that for now. I'm going to suspend reality for now. And let's say they reduce the accidents by 30%. Still a lot of accidents in the US alone, much less the entire world. I don't think the people that are taking this stance realize exactly how many accidents happen on a daily basis. So even a reduction in 30% is a massive liability that somebody like Tesla or Waymo would be taking on to themselves and to their cars. Do we really believe that these companies are just going to eat those costs? That doesn't sound like a reasonable assumption to me. I'm very pessimistic of that, and I'm very concerned about the liability issue because right now we have companies that don't even apologize to you for getting your data stolen. I think it's very hard to find somebody, a grown adult that hasn't had their data stolen in some sort of data breach or whatnot. We've all received the letters and the emails that inform you of your data being stolen, of the companies making a mistake. Maybe in some of those cases, an algorithm made a mistake along the way. But they don't even bother to apologize. Why? Well, because legal said that if we say we're sorry, it implies liability. So why are you trusting these companies that are going to take responsibility and stand up and say, yes, we are to blame for your grandmother dying in a car accident? That doesn't seem like a reasonable expectation. Now, I hear the proponents of AVs saying, well, Tesla is different. Well, Waymo is different. They're going to take responsibility because it's their product. No, I don't buy that either. It's the same venture capitalists behind these companies as the other companies. It's the same 4, 5, 6 legal firms that dominate Silicon Valley. So there's really no reasonable expectations for us as the general public to say that Tesla and Waymo are going to be accepting responsibility. They're going to be taking on the liability from all these accidents that are going to happen because they can show that they are less accidents than the humans, so on and so forth. So I really don't think that a lot of the trust that some people are displaying in both the algorithms and in the companies themselves to really be warranted for us to be excited and be pushing more and more towards self-driving or rider-only capable cars. It just doesn't seem practical from both a data science implementation perspective and a liability perspective, and what we as a society, as humans that are going to be in these cars, are going to benefit the most from. So I hope this is giving you something to think about, because I really do think that it's an important topic. And I thank you for the time that we spent together, and I'll see you next time.